I'm David Griffin. It's the 3rd of January 2018 and I'm here in the heart of Amber Valley at Denby Cricket Club with three gentlemen vastly experienced and know everything about Denby Cricket Club, and they are
Mick Spencer,
Michael Bennett,
Mark Hallows.
lovely. Nice to meet you, gentlemen. What we're going to do first of all is talk a little bit about Denby Cricket Club and its origins, how it first began. So it dates back to the 1860s, am I right?
Well, according to the best information, and we've always taken this as the foundation day, it was 1865, but recently we found some Derby Mercury press reports of matches which took place in the late 1850s and earlier in the 1860s.
And what sort of cricket, Mark, was being played then? This was friendly cricket, right? Mm. And what kind of players, where were you recruiting from? Because this would have been an even smaller area of population, presumably, back then.
Yeah, they were all local players, many of whom who lived in the village and at Denby, and possibly Losco, although Losco had a cricket team of their own. But they were very, very local. Transport was difficult, as you could imagine, and looking at the old photographs, and we have a photograph from 1900 and 1910, the same names crop up over Weston, Spencer, Cresswell, the same names are there all the time.
And we're sitting on a ground in a very modern setting now, but this wasn't the original ground, was it, back then?
the original ground was at Denby Pottery.
Right. And who owned that? Was that owned by the pottery?
What did it mean?
I couldn't tell you, it may have been.
It was owned by the pottery when we went out.
We understand it was Drury Low.
Yeah, it would be, yeah.
Right. So the cricket then wasn't particularly that organised. It would have just been friendly matches.
Oh no, it was league matches.
Oh, was it? So
yeah.
when did Denby first get affiliated or join a league then?
Well, they were definitely in a league when I first started going, so it was late 40s.
Well, I can go back a little bit earlier than that.
Yeah, probably earlier, yeah.
Having done this research for the Derbyshire County League's 100-year anniversary handbook, we definitely know that they're in the Derby and District League in 1937 as champions, because we do have two of the individual trophies that have been donated to the club by Mr. Cresswell and Mr. Pickering, both two more names which crop up in the history of Denby Cricket Club.
And who would Denby have been playing then? Because obviously transport would have been more limited. So what sort of teams were in that league?
Well, they appeared to go down to Derby.
Did they?
Yeah, Dina, yeah.
Was the railway transport at that time through Denby? Would there have been a train?
Well, Nottingham Derbyshire Board League was based on you being able to catch a bus to all the grounds by Dean and Langley Mill. There was Langley Mill, what was the Langley Mill team? Langley
Mill United, wasn't it?
That was Langley Mill. There were another one. Langley Mill Co-op.
Right.
They were down near where Sainsbury's is now, not Sainsbury's, Asda, down there.
So what was your first association with Denby then?
Scoring.
Really?
Yeah.
What year would that have been?
About 48, 50, something like that.
Really? So you're just a kid?
I was just a kid, yeah. But if you scored, you got your free tea, you see. And we used to score on board, didn't we, mate?
So when was your first?
1953, I think it was. Yeah.
And you?
Before I left school.
Oh, it's a little bit more complicated in my case because I didn't join Denby till 82.
Right.
After I'd finished playing, and I did start as a scorer to Worksworth Second 11 in 1946, first season after the war, and then scored for the first team, and a year later was playing Worksworth first team cricket. I played with Cromford in the 1950s and Riddings in the 1960s, but I joined Denby in 1982 purely and simply to get a pint at the bar when the new club was opened, and having lost the old ground in about 1979 when it was included in a huge opencast project called Ryefields, and the British Coal had the coal under the ground and Denby Pottery had the clay. So for 3 years we were a club without a ground, and both these gentlemen played at Charles Hill for 3 years while this ground was being constructed.
Playing at Losco.
Yeah.
Oscar Mines Welfare.
Yeah.
So going back to the 40s, 1950s, was this Border League cricket by this
Yeah,
stage?
not
So
Derbyshire
this is
Border League.
competitive Border League cricket.
Oh, yeah, very.
So and it was a league structure.
Yes.
So who was in that were you in the top division,
Yeah,
Denby?
there was most of the time.
And what sort of sides
Butley
were?
were
Butley.
Butley were the main team then.
Yeah.
He was, yeah.
Yeah, Butley. Ena, Godner, Langley Mill,
Yeah.
Langley Mill Co-op. All teams that you could catch a bus to.
Yeah. And that you say that was the basis of because of the transport
Yeah,
network
yeah.
and what have you.
We went down to Spondon and,
Yes, we did, yeah.
and Ockbrook.
Yeah.
And what was
Chadstone.
at that time in the 40s and 50s then? What was was the club in a good state? Was it a successful side or?
Well, it was run mainly by Frank Greenwood.
It was, yes.
Frank Greenwood,
He was the leader and secretary,
captain,
general
secretary, yeah.
organiser.
Really?
Got a groundsman. A lot of people in that team who worked at Denby Pottery, didn't
Yes.
We did, you see. And it attracted, you know, he worked there as a foreman there. And
Right.
And Pottery subsidised it a bit.
Really?
yeah,
To
they used,
Pottery.
they used to come and mow ground. The Pottery, I don't know what they were called, but their dog's body like that used to drive tractor. He used to come up and mow at ground for
Really?
us. For
Yeah.
you know, a bit back.
And were there any professional? Were you paying players at any point then, or was it all amateur cricket? Any particular players stand out either that were playing for Denby at the time, or players that you were coming up against in the
What for
in the
Denby?
leagues? Yeah, either for Denby or against
Well,
Denby.
yeah,
Particular.
plenty really. I mean, Mick Turner was a good player. So was this bloke here. And I like to think I was, but at one time there were 5 mixing teams.
Really?
There was 4, there was 5.
Interested for the captain?
Yeah, we used to do it on purpose, mind you. Shout back 5 yards, Mick, and we all used to go. to drive him crazy. That was,
So how successful was this team? Do you ever win the Border League?
I don't think so. We won 2nd division, didn't we? We got to a few cup finals, but you'd got Butler then that won everything.
Yeah.
So why were Butterley so strong, just out of interest? Because everyone I talk to talks about Butterley being particularly strong. What was their
I don't know.
attraction?
They had a hell of a team.
They did, yeah.
I think there was a benefactor in
Right.
the background, and they did continue through the war, and several Derbyshire players, including Bill Copson
Yeah.
and George
Right.
Cole, turned out for Butterley during the war, and they certainly had a benefactor, and whether this carried on into the 1950s may well have done, but it may be that anyone who came to the area said, which club shall I join, who's the best club, and
Yeah.
Butterley seemed to have the pick of the players, even going on much later. Butterley was strong up until the mid-60s, very strong.
And were you coming up against any Derbyshire players? Were Derbyshire players back then ever contracted to league clubs, or did they
I
go
don't
there
know
after they'd
contract, but they
finished?
used to play, some used to play odd games. I don't think there was any played regular.
Yeah.
Some used to play odd
Any you
games.
came up against?
Well, I can't think of any names. I can picture them, but I can't think of any names. I mean, the ones I can really remember are a bit later on, like John Morris,
Yeah.
recently,
Yeah.
and at Derby, wasn't it?
Yes.
John Morris. And Borrington.
Tony Ampel.
Tony Borrington, not
Yeah.
Paul. I
All
don't
right.
think.
Yeah, Tony was at Langley Mill, I think, wasn't he, for a while?
Oh,
after
yeah,
he
he,
retired?
Tony went quite a few places. Langley Mill, Warner, Stignall.
Stainsbury. Yes, Tony played with about 8 or 9
Did he really?
League clubs at various times. I can remember when Dick Pickering was captain, I played against Denby at the Ryefields ground near the Pottery, and they did have a couple of Derbyshire players then. I think Peter Eyre played a few
Stan
matches.
Jordan.
Yeah, all right.
Fred
Stanley.
Walbrook.
Yeah.
Fred Swalbrook. They all played in that team captained by Dick Pickering.
That was 68, that was.
Right.
It was quite obviously when you've got Derbyshire players coming into the team, there's somebody's got to go down to second team, haven't they? And we've got a team in second team that come third in the Premier League the year after.
Really?
Yeah, because they all when one goes, they all go.
Yeah.
That's what happened. Fresh Walbrook, all of them, they went, didn't they, Mark? Well, you perhaps don't remember. But they all went, left us with what was the second team, plus about 2 or 3 players. Eric Burgoyne, Eric was a good player. he took over as captain, and we come third in league that next year. It was basically the team that won the.
And this was still playing at your original
Yes,
your
yes.
original ground. So
That was 68. That was.
so when you moved, because the ground move was in the 80s.
79.
Some
we
right.
lost,
82.
yeah,
was the
we
first
lost the old
year I
ground
did.
in 79.
Were you still playing then?
Yeah.
Presumably, yeah.
I was chairman.
Were you? So
Well,
what
yeah.
drove the move then? What was the background to the move?
It was all about getting the new ground.
You wanted
We
a new
took the
ground.
we took the goal board on. Can
Really?
you remember the Beaver Valley job?
Yeah, yeah, I
In
do.
Leicester. They got a hell of a good bad press for that, goal board did. Terrible press for that. And we jumped in. I mean, Peter and myself and I think Mick was involved as well. We met the goal board and they agreed to build us this ground. It cost them a fortune. Cost them a fortune.
But what was the logic behind it? Did they wanted that land back, presumably? Of
No,
your
they
other
took
ground?
the land.
Oh, I
where
see.
the old ground was. This was
Right.
like a sweetener.
Right.
Well, it was a sweetener. And then the council stepped in. The council wanted to run it. And I was chairman, and Mick could tell you, said, right, you'll get on with it. We walked out at meeting.
Really?
That the council soon back down then, because they didn't want us to have a bar. Well, how would you win a fund this place
Yeah.
without a bar? It's common sense.
So you were happy to get the new ground?
Oh, very happy,
presumably.
yeah. But the next morning, after that walking out, the next morning, there was a bloke that was, I don't know who was area manager at Colboard or the one above him. Anyway, he rings me up next morning. He says, that was brilliant, that was. He says, that's just what we wanted. I mean, it wasn't planned or anything, it just happened. And he says, we don't want them either. He says, but we couldn't say anything because they was after permission to do the, whatever they have to get permission, outcropping, etc.
And what was I mean, how was it in terms of pitch preparation and stuff like that?
Well, it took
When
at
it
least, well, our president then was very hard, his name was very hard, I can't think of his first name. And that's what he was, he designed all this. So it didn't cost us anything, virtually.
Really?
No, it cost us anything. He designed it to put everything he could think in. There was a wine cellar and all sorts he put in. And only objection that the council had for planning was it wasn't big enough car park. So that's about triple size of car park. They cost an extra 25 grand anyway.
Right.
Car park did.
Did it really?
Yeah. And they were right, mind you. They were right.
And then presumably from that, the next step would have been Premier League status. Were you a founder member of the Premier
Yes,
League?
I think so.
Yes, we were.
I finished by then.
Yeah. 1999 was the first year of the Premier League, and we were one of the clubs invited.
Was that based on facilities or combination of
Yeah,
players and
Combination of things, your status over the previous few years,
Yeah.
whether you'd played Division 1 of the Border League,
Right.
and basically how good you were, and facilities. I mean, Clive Harris, who was then the chairman, the founding chairman of the Premier League, has always been very, very keen on facilities, and we still are today.
I mean, your playing career was from when, the early mid-50s, did you say?
53 when I was still at grammar school.
Yeah.
Started coming to Denby when they was at Ryefield, of course. And the last season I played was 19. Came after the army in 61. I played in the 1962 season, and that was it.
Right.
I got married.
Right. And you didn't play after that?
I didn't play after that.
Really? You look back fondly, presumably, with those years when you did play. Were you a batsman or a bowler?
Batsman.
What about you?
Field, I was a bowler.
Were you?
He was one of the best fields in the Border League at that time.
Fascinating. And the second ground, the one at the ground at the back here, how did that come about? Because a lot of clubs do it now, but you were one of the first, were you not,
It
to
was fair.
get another ground?
I don't think we were quite the first. I'm not sure whether all were about the same time. But there was a football ground there, and
I
I
played
came
on
to
there,
live in the
football.
village in 1964,
A village football ground.
and there was a village football team that changed at the Bull's Head
that's right.
and walked down to play football here. But I think 64 was probably the last season on that, and the ground reverted to a farmer, and there was a wood and a farmer, and a farmer's field. That the problem was that having moved to this ground with the better facilities, we started attracting players. with a youth team, an under 18 team. And more and more people were joining the club. We started a third team. We were the first club to have a third team in Derbyshire, as far as I'm aware. And then shortly after that, we started a fourth team. Both of them had to play on our grounds. The idea was there any reason why we couldn't get all four teams playing at Denby alternate weeks? So we looked into buying that land. We'd already bought this land from British Coal. We engineered a very good deal using our contacts at British Coal and local estate agents. And at this time, we decided to go to try and buy that. British Coal wouldn't sell it to us and said, no, we want to sell the whole 1,000-acre side off. We don't want to sell bits of land. We're not selling 5.5 acres. But Mick Glenn's father went to see the local MP at his surgery, a guy called Oppenheimer, Philip Oppenheimer. And Philip Oppenheimer listened to what Gordon Glenn had to say, went round to Coal House in London, and within a week we got a telephone message, go and see the local chief surveyor at Eastwood Hall for British Coal, and he's been instructed to do a deal with you. So in the end we did a deal.
There's a bit of a pattern emerging here, isn't there, of you digging your heels in as a club?
Oh, we did, yeah.
And you talked about doing it years ago, and you...
It was on telly.
Really?
Yeah.
It just goes to show, I guess, if you've got the will and the determination
The
to...
chance was there and we took it.
Yeah.
And
You've got to
just
work really, really hard.
Before we go on with this, the reason we needed a new ground, they wouldn't let us play in the Premier League. Well, in the first divisions it was then,
Right.
on that ground.
Right.
Because it wasn't the best ground anymore.
No, the pottery ground was, one or two clubs used to turn the nose up. I always found it was a reasonable ground to play on. If it was a wet day, you'd always play cricket at Denby because it was built on ash and the water went
That's why I
straight
said it was a
through
foot
it. Yep.
And your roles now, obviously you've all retired from playing. You talked about yourself, Mark, when you came here after you'd retired. What are your roles
I'm
now
umpire
with the... Oh, you umpired
I
it?
do, yeah. Last 17 years.
So you can't umpire Denby?
Well, you can, but you can't umpire the Premier League.
No.
Well, I'm too old for the Premier League anyway, but I umpired here a couple of times last year, for about the 13 level, that's right.
Yeah. And you? Have you have any involvement with
No
it?
involvement whatsoever.
No. It's just nice to have you back here and
It is,
amongst
yeah,
friends
it's
talking
time
about...
to-
And what's the future hold for Denby? Are you still confident about the future for the club? Good setup?
Well, me and my partner had Denby at Codney last year, and I think average age were about 10. It was unbelievable. I think he got about 8, even under 15 playing. And they could play as well. There's plenty of teams got a load of youngsters. There's not that many teams got a load of youngsters that can actually play. Play and look like being good cricketers.
And what are you doing here, Mark? What do you I know you're heavily involved in the legacy, if you like, the heritage of cricket generally.
I've tried to put something back into the game. Having played for 4 or 5 clubs at a decent level. In fact, we were champions of the Border League in 1966 when I played at Riddings. But I was asked to take on the chairmanship here sometime after Mick gave it up, and I was the chairman when we bought this side, and I was still chairman when we bought that side. I also did head grounds on both sides, and I project managed the construction of that ground, right the way from applying for planning permission, doing the drawings, and then supervising the contractors that did the site clearance, and then all the filling. And we filled it up to there's 5 metres of fill with the ground, and basically it's gone on from that. We've now got
Well, 170 years on from when it all started, or thereabouts, it all seems to be still in good hands. I'd like to just thank you for this first contribution. We'll perhaps talk to you again some more in a minute. Thanks, chaps.
It didn't realise